Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the SWAN Pricing Show. My name is Filip Vucic. I'm a pricing mentor.
And I'm Filip Zolota. I'm the owner of growth marketing agency Maoya.
Today, we're going to talk about biases in the target market, or choosing who your clients should be, particularly the great white whale hunt, right? Could you lead us into the subject, please?
Absolutely. You will see quite often in expertise-based businesses, no matter the respectable niche, people are looking for and chasing the big white whales. They see them as their ideal client and customer, and everything is cool until they actually reach them and see that ideal picture. It's not so ideal, budget-wise, organization-wise, resources-wise, etc., etc. So that is now and today's topic we'll be discussing about.
Right. So, first let's address the swan duck difference. So, what we call swans here is basically expertise based services. Um, is and what we call ducks are the commoditized, fungible, service based businesses. So, is there a big difference in how the white whale clients work in both cases?
Yeah, there is a respectable situation in which quite often the big white whales have the gatekeepers inside and within their organization, which are aiming for optimizing the resources, meaning saving as much as they can. And they're
Cutting as much as they can.
and they're approaching that way to every respectable service provider with whom they have any kind of engagement. And more often than not, entire decision-making process is not it's not agile enough, fast enough. I know in saying that from my experience. And at the same time, what is problematic is that companies, experts who are chasing those big white whales don't have on their mind several important elements: their resources and how much time they'll be dedicating to respectable big white whale, and from the financial position, how good or how lucrative that engagement and arrangement truly is and good for their business. The point is to mitigate as much as you can the risk of any kind of involvement, because you'll see more often than not the big white whales are taking majority of the resources of their service providers and partners. And what can happen if the company loses big white whale, they're on their knees and they are closing the business. I saw that way too often. The point is in distributing the risk, mitigating the risk, and in the end, you can have the adequate level of agility, flexibility, and you can generate true and tangible results in small to medium-sized businesses with a less time consumption, a less resources involvement, and you're being focused on the actual result you both generate as the partners.
Yeah. So, what you said, it unbalances the client portfolio,
Yeah.
because you never really want to have a client that is over a certain percentage of your total yearly revenue,
Yeah.
because then effectively they're your boss,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
they don't have then you have to give them the same rights as you would to a boss, but they don't have the same amount of responsibilities toward you as a boss would. So, um, that's a bad deal for you, right? And you also lose negotiation power because of this. Because if you have like I do, about 30 clients a year, which is a small amount, let's say, but each of these clients, I don't have to get their business. when I negotiate about a client like that, they're like, okay, yeah,
Yeah.
3 to 5% of my yearly revenue. So if we don't have a deal, we don't have a deal. I don't lose sleep over it. I can't do that 10 times in a row, but in each and every individual one, they don't really it's not really a bad scenario for me to not get that business,
Yeah,
right?
they're not impacting strongly on your business continuity, which is important.
So I can retain a lot of my negotiation power because of it,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly.
And this happens, I think, what you just described, people relying on a big white whale, or catching a break, let's say, because of the availability bias usually. So most of us, most experts, work for somebody else first, and then when we get out of corporate, we still have the corporate network. We know people in corporate, and maybe we have a common enemy with somebody else, or we have a really good friend, or somebody worked with us in a different environment, and they're the only ones currently who know our value. So we get these kinds of jobs. But it can also be, and I've seen this as well, that people um, start their work, and at first the only clients that they can reach are small and medium businesses. And then for a while, that's the only person that those are the only people that you work with, and then after a while it starts to be normal, and when somebody asks you who you're searching for, who would you like, oh yeah, small and medium businesses or corporate only. It's putting blinders on yourself,
Yeah.
based on nothing else but history, which was impacted, which was biased because of the market access that you had before. So either corporate, so you're skewing too big, or minnows, which would be the opposite of a whale, right? Because those were the only ones who would give you a time of day. So in general, um, you can't let a market drive you, I think. I would say this. You can get away with this as a duck, because duck businesses are mostly much more scalable. And if a big corporation needs a lot of, you being in a lot of places, you can simply replicate yourself by making a manual and hiring people. That's not really an option in a SWAN business. Uh, you can't be on 5 places at once. And there's no way that you can simply, write a few pages, okay, maybe 20 pages down, and now anybody with a college degree can do your job.
That won't happen.
That
Exactly.
that's simply not gonna happen, right? We'll pending some AI changes, but I I have to start adding these things in, because this content may be viewed in like 10 years. What is this guy talking about, right? So right now, that's not a thing. Right now, that's not a thing. So I think that's the biggest difference here, that you can afford to scale, because okay, it's a matter of money. Scaling is a matter of money in duck business, right? Right now you can't employ people because you don't have such a big engagement. But if you had $1 million engagement and you had a contract, you could use it to get some money off the bank and hire people to fulfill that contract. That's not a thing in this SWAN world. You can hire some colleagues, but it's much more like herding cats, and you can't be sure that you'll be able to do it. And you might not be compatible and you might not be. I mean, it's just a lot more questions, right? So this is, I think, the big difference here. By the way, um, what's the right attitude toward big white whales from your side?
Yeah. It's quite simple. The alignment needs to be out there in terms of free reign on the respectable activities you are providing for your big white whale customer. Also, the budget wise, you need to have full alignment and the entire process adequately organized, and definitely a dedicated resources from their end simply to be available to you in terms of two-way communication and everything. Practically, you are demanding in some way where possible, where applicable, the agility and flexibility of smaller to medium-sized businesses. That can be seen in some of the situations and scenarios, not so often, but it is manageable, especially if you are sharing that as a prerequisite. Especially if the big white whales understand their actual state is bad and they need to move forward, and this is the only way they can go forward because everything else is being way too slow in the terms of process and operational activities happening inside their organization. So that is the only way I am personally approaching that, and also in the same time having a smaller number of big white whales compared to SMB type of the clients. That way you are mitigating the risk or quite often eliminating in case of you lose the big white whale and it doesn't impact your overall operations, business continuity, and company in general.
Yeah. I agree. So of course some white whales will also know that they're white whales for you. Most of them will.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them will then ask for special treatment or simply break the rules or act like rules don't exist for them because we are whoever and
You need
you're happy.
us.
Yeah,
You're happy to have us.
you're happy to have us. So the you need us more than we need you, right?
Yeah.
And that's not, firstly, in most swan type businesses, that's not true. That's
Yeah.
simply not true. um and I think ethically as well, if you have a client that carries too much of your yearly revenue,
Mm-hmm.
you will also what you say to them will be impacted by this fact, which is
Exactly.
bad, right? Because can I really tell them that their baby is ugly? Well, this new project that you're doing, that's not going to lead anywhere. I can see it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But then maybe they say, aha, okay, so you're not on board. We'll find somebody who is. And then what? Right? So it's a gray area, whether you dare to say something when you see something, right? So it's, of course, there's an ethically right way to do this, which is to cut your losses and but we're humans, so it's not always ideal when this happens and you have somebody in the hospital, or you're not sleeping well right now and you can't imagine going on the hunt and trying to make this, or you already bought something with the money that you counted on, or something like this, and it's better not to put yourself into that situation, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think it's really good to have a mix of clients, but even if you don't right now, I think it's important that you think of your client mix as a portfolio, as you would an investment portfolio. So you want to have different types because, if something completely unimaginably crazy happens, like a global pandemic or something, which would of course never happen, um, different kinds of businesses will have different kinds of responses to this kind of situation. Um, and you're best off hedging your bets in this way, right? Um, and how do you achieve that, by the way? What's your way of achieving a healthy mix of different sized clients?
Ah, I'm in business. I'm constantly checking the overall situation, and it's a matter of culture and organization in-house. Our primary goal is and focus on small to medium-sized businesses. And if a big white whale comes in, okay, if we have a respectable slot and if we are aligned in terms of value, the objectives, the plans, and everything. Because also I'm very transparent in communication. And I'm saying to the respectable client, we cannot be in the position of losing objectivity, because that way you are using your expert's identity and you're transforming yourself to the yes guy, meaning whatever a client says or demands, you'll be saying, yes, yeah, we'll do it. And no, not to mention the scope creep happening because of that situation. So it's a matter of focus. And the fact is, if you are doing an amazing job in small to medium-sized businesses, referrals will come in. People will hear about the results. So you won't be chasing the big white whales. Big white whales will be coming to you, which is by default and initially much better position for you in terms of value conversation and overall structure, because you definitely
It's a more
don't want.
healthy conversation. It's a more healthy
Exactly.
conversation for experts in general to be the ones, not to be the ones knocking, right?
Yeah,
Because we're selling advice, which is quite different from many other things. And one of the ways that you cannot sell advice, because you wouldn't buy it that way, if somebody knocks on your door and said, "Hi, need some advice? You can pay me." Right? You can pay me a lot of money to get some advice. No, thank you. If I need you, I'll call you.
exactly.
Right? That's the thing. That's the thing. So it's better to bait the big white whales than to chase them.
Yeah.
Can we call it that?
Yeah,
Right?
and exactly. There are so many opportunities and options how you can chase the big white whale without chasing. That is
So
practically
bait.
becoming a part of their infrastructure and relevant context on relevant position, and they simply come to you in one moment because you're already there and 4 to 5 people mentioned you. It's much more comfortable sitting in that respectable chair compared to, hello, sir, we can help you. We just need and require a crazy amount of money. Do you want us? Yeah. I need you. Just like that.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Didn't have anything better to do, so I guess I'll pay you a lot of money today. So okay, let's just quickly go through some ways of baiting big white whales. So because the first one that comes to my mind is probably conferences or books. So write books, and if not that, then go to conferences and have I think panels, and then after a while keynotes. This is the thing that gets you. When a boss says, "Get me that guy," you know that guy with, yeah, that guy that we heard that we said, "Oh, we might use it." Well, that guy, not get me somebody who knows how to do marketing.
Yeah.
That is going to be the race to the bottom. But if somebody says, "Get me that guy," now we're talking, right? So what would be the other things? What would be the other ways of baiting whales?
Yeah, absolutely. Complementary to that, what you mentioned, visiting the networking events and everything else. Absolutely, entire educational marketing and being visible out there on LinkedIn and other social media, because more often than not, big white whales are there. They're looking for somebody and they'll reach you. It happened to me quite a big number of times. Simply, people were checking the materials I was sharing transparently and communicating for their respectable niche, for their respectable industry. And they simply, as you mentioned, demanded me for specific case and scenario. So that is important parameter, and definitely accompanying entire visibility moment being on the network sessions, groups, events, etc., etc.
What's the biggest so what's the biggest value of a project that you had that you got this way? So not by asking, but by being asked. Could you
Um,
share that?
yeah, I can. Let me check. The deal which was on table, it wasn't closed, but it was on a table. It was for the marketing engagement. It was 2 mil per year.
Very nice.
Yeah, it wasn't closed because there was a discrepancy between the required budget for marketing, for advertising, for PR, etc. But overall, seeing a very good position for the agency, and simply came to us that way, and it was accompanied by direct referrals from people who know us, what we are doing, etc. So having that strong social proof definitely helps. Not only being visible, but you have an amazing repository of people who can test your knowledge, your expertise, and you being a legit guy in the end. Because nowadays in the market, you can be whatever you want and you can speak about anything you want. But there is a big difference between professionals and professionals.
For sure. Professionals. So cool. So do you have anything more to say about on the subject of white whales?
Practically no. I would only emphasize, which I already mentioned, and that is that people, the experts, the swans, should be thinking about distributing the risk and risk distribution overall. And no matter if they are maybe came from the corporate, to think also about small to medium sized business. Because I'll mention one fresh example: a colleague who came from corporate. He is a finance expert, and he's now almost in full 2 years without a job. Why? Because he's seeing only the big white whales, but in the same time living on table so much business opportunities, which could be 10 times the size of one big white whale in terms of yearly income. So that simply widening the perspective will be appreciated and beneficial for you as the expert.
Yeah. So as they say, consider the source, right?
Yeah.
Maybe what you think of as your natural target audience is just true historically. However, right now you absolutely could and or should be thinking about your target audience more broadly, or even better, uh, more specifically, more closer to a niche, because now you can. You couldn't then, but now you can, right? So a target audience is primarily a decision. It's not something that happens to you. Many things happen to you, but not this. This is a decision that you make, right? So it needs to be addressed like that. Okay, so Philip, where can people find you?
People can find me on LinkedIn, also on my agency page, maui.agency, and my consultancy practice, philipzalota.com.
Awesome. People can find me on fearless-pricing.com and on LinkedIn for sure. So thank you, and I'll see you next week.
Take care. See you. Bye.
Bye.